BBC Radio Leeds.
West Yorkshire Sport Daily here on BBC Radio Leeds. Now, while the return of the EFL was getting all the headlines last weekend, it was also an historic day for Steeton AFC. They played their first ever match in the North West Counties Division 1 North. They won it by 2-1 away at Holker Old Boys. It comes after a summer of hard work following their election into the division. It also comes alongside a move to a ground share with the Keighley Cougars at Cougar Park. Well, earlier I spoke to the Steeton manager Roy Mason and started by asking about Saturday's victory.
We were absolutely delighted to get the win up at Holker on Saturday. A really tough game, but I thought the players really equipped themselves very well. They were very organised throughout the game. They really got into the Holker side. They were committed. They kept the shape very well. And I think the players grew in confidence as the game grew on as well. And certainly once we scored the first goal, I think the players thought we can come up here and we can get something.
How confident were you of the win going into that? Because it is sort of unknown territory for you, isn't it, this level?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's unknown territory for us. We didn't really know what we were going to be going into when we went up to Holker. We knew it was going to be a tough game because they'd beaten the top 5 teams, I think, last year, including champion Silsden. So they were a very good side at home. So we knew it was going to be very tough. We just worked pretty much on our shape all week. Have been defensively very solid. We hoped if we went up there we could keep a clean sheet or certainly limit them to a number of chances. But we also know with the attacking prowess we got the other end, we would create some chances, and that certainly proved to be the case. I think after the first 15, you could see the players visibly settling down, and I think once we got into the first 15 minutes of the game, the players thought, yeah, there's no reason why we can't come up here and get a result.
To put it into context then, for people who perhaps don't know, how much of a step up is this level to what you were at last season?
Well, we're at step 7 last year, so we've gone up to step 6, but whilst in terms of it just being one step, it's a huge step for us because obviously it's into a semi-professional league now, whereas last year in the West Riding County Amateur it was just that, it was an amateur league. So, yeah, it's been a huge step really because in terms of the commitment that we now require from the players, there's a lot more travelling involved, a lot more training sessions, and I think they've sort of seen behind the scenes as well that the club has changed off the field as well and is looking to be more of a semi-professional club than actually an amateur club.
Yeah, we'll talk about how it's been off the field in a moment. As far as recruiting players then, has that been fairly straightforward or what sort of challenges have you encountered?
We've recruited quite well. I've been pleased with our recruiting. I don't think we're fully over the line with where we want to be. We're still looking to add to the squad because in my view at the moment the squad's just not big enough. We need to actually have a stronger squad. We need more depth because again, given the number of games we're going to be playing at this level, it's nearly sort of twice as many games when you add all the cup games in as we were playing last year. It's not easy to recruit, and certainly, you know, we're up against sides with big budgets. We certainly haven't got a big budget. You know, we've just gone from amateur status to semi-professional status. We need to take our first steps on the ladder. But we've been well helped by sort of people at a higher level. For example, Bradford Park Avenue have been really good with us by sending Alfie Stevens-Neil on loan for the full season for us. So that's been really good. We've pulled in a couple of experienced lads from North West Counties in Aaron Hollandrake and Andy Lee. We recruited Callum Mead as well from Golka in the County Amateur. Also brought through a number of young players. Most of those made their debuts on Saturday and equipped themselves very well.
How do you sell the club then? As you say, if budgets are sort of incomparable, if you like, to other clubs in the division, how do you sell Steeton?
We sell the club on the basis that we're very well run. We do everything very professionally, and I think we had a good reputation before we joined the North West Counties as a side that did everything very professionally. Obviously, playing at Cougar Park, I think, is a big draw because it's a 7,500 capacity stadium. So I think having those things down there as well make it quite an attractive proposition for players coming down, and I think people can see the ambition of the club and the potential as well, because obviously the fact we've moved to Cougar Park, we've moved into Keighley, and you know, a town the size of Keighley, it doesn't have a semi-professional football team, and I think people see that there is huge potential for the club to grow.
Yeah, let's talk about the ground move then. It's been a crazy summer for you, really. Not much of a turnaround time, is it, really, between the decision to accept you into the division and then having to move into Cougar Park. So just describe what the last sort of couple of months have been like.
A couple of months have been hectic. I don't think any of us have had a day off. The ground staff have worked tirelessly. We recruited a couple of new groundsmen towards the end of last season in James Yeadon and Rob Tosney. And they've done a fantastic job down at Cougar Park in trying to turn what was essentially a rugby pitch into a football pitch, and doing it against the backdrop of the dry summer we've had for years. We've had water bowsers down there, which we've kindly had people sponsor us to actually get some much needed water onto the pitch, as we had it seeded earlier in the summer, but of course with the weather we've had, the seed hasn't taken. But even silly things like having to buy goalposts. Cougar Park didn't have any football goalposts. We've had problems with working out how we actually change the rugby posts, get those out, and then get the football posts in. So there's been quite a lot of things for us down there. And of course, Cougars themselves have had a little bit of a difficult summer. And it's only been the last few weeks where they've now been taken over by Austria Holdings as well. So it's probably not been what I would describe as a normal pre-season by any means.
Yeah, your first home game is in just over a week's time, Saturday the 18th of August against AFC Blackpool. I guess that will be the measure really of how well things have gone so far, haven't they? How have you been received so far in the town?
Well, so far everyone's been really positive. We've had 2 pre-season friendlies down at Cougar Park where we kept those very much low-key because we didn't want a particularly big crowd, because it was our first experience of actually manning a game down at Cougar Park and getting used to everything down there as well. But we were pleasantly surprised when we played Leeds City, and I think there was about 120 people turned up just for a friendly game that we hadn't even advertised. So I think once we can get out there and once people know what we're doing, we've got incentive schemes where we've got season tickets very cheap. Adult season tickets are only £60, and we're aiming to give all the kids in the area who want one 16 and under a free season ticket, because very much in the mould that we are, we realise we haven't got a fan base, so we've got to try and build that fan base. And I think we're probably going to have to use the incentive of letting children 16 and under in free to try and build a fan base, and hopefully they'll come with parents and people, and then we can start to build up a decent following.
Let's talk about tonight then, second game at this level, Avro FC. What are you expecting from them? How tough a challenge will they be?
I think this will probably be a totally different game to Saturday, and probably one of the toughest challenges we've got. I know it's very early days, but looking at what Avro have been doing, they've certainly been very busy in recruiting players. They had a strong season last year in the Manchester League where I don't think they lost a single game all season. They got off to a great start with a 5-0 win at Ashton. We have them watched on Saturday, so we know what we're up against. They're going to be a strong, very well organised side. They've got a few players that have played at this level and 1 or 2 players that have played at a higher level. But of course, one of the interesting things for us is going to be playing on the 3G pitch as well, because Avro share with Oldham Rugby League. So it's going to be a totally different game to Saturday when we're playing on grass.
Yeah, and if you can get the win tonight and also in your next fixture ahead of your first home game, if you can go into your first match at Cougar Park on the back of building some momentum, then if you can get, that's really important as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's massively important, and I think the fact that we got the win under our belts on the first day of the season was hugely important, not just for the players, but for everyone in and around the club, because it's given everyone a huge boost. And I think also for players maybe who are sort of umming and ahhing about where they're going to play next year, that it maybe sends out a bit of a message that, yeah, we can compete at this level, and Steeton's an exciting place to be at the moment.
Steeton manager Roy Mason speaking to me earlier today. Best of luck to them tonight when they face Avro FC in the North West Counties Division 1 North.